12th of August, 5 of us left Sydney for deepest, darkest Africa. We flew down over Tasmania and along the edge of Antarctica, which was really amazing. It certainly wasn't what I was expecting. We stopped over in Johannesburg and then we went on to Accra in Ghana, without our suitcases as it turned out. We were joined there by a couple of other trainers and the 10 recordists we were going there to train. It took us a few days to get adjusted to new surroundings, to get to know each other, and it took a few more days to get our equipment out of customs and our bags from the airline. Before we go any further, let's just take in some of the sights and sounds of Ghana. This is a busy street not far from where we were staying and working. This is a song we recorded in one of the local churches. The purpose of the trip was to equip and train 10 recordists from West Africa. They came from Cameroon, Nigeria, Togo, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. Here they are with all the trainers. This is the old equipment they have been using, but which is now difficult to maintain and out of date. The new recorder is smaller, of much better quality, and it doesn't use tape. The recordists were keen to get their hands on it and see what it was all about. However, because the whole process of digital recording involves the use of computers, it was essential for us to find out exactly what they knew about them before we did anything else. We put each of them through a computer skills test and thankfully found that they all had at least some experience. That was a great start. A lot of the training revolved around using computers to copy, move, edit and process the digital sound recordings. Ray McAway and Noel Batchelor covered a lot of this material. We also covered subjects like basic electronics to give them better understanding of microphones, batteries and other peripheral equipment. The recordists likened the 6-week course to the Israelites moving from Egypt to the Promised Land. In the last week of the course, they all reckoned that Canaan was in sight at last. And finally, as that week came to an end, we crossed over the Jordan River. But before that, we had a lot of wilderness to wander through. This man is a Ghanaian Bible translator who gave a good session on translation principles.
When I read the English Bible, it speaks to my head. But when I read the New Testament or the Bible in my own language, it speaks to my heart.
We also had to look closely at the properties of sound, and we did some experiments to measure the speed of sound, what causes echoes, acoustic qualities, and the selection of suitable recording locations. We finally let the recordists loose with their new machines. These are some of the results.
Nobody can help God because God gets more power than any other God.
Adamu da Hawawu sun yi cinji sun ba Ubangiji da suka ci itacen da Allah ya ce kasu ci.
One of the trainers was Surendra Shrestha from Nepal.
In certain folder, now I want to see that all those tracks all together in my screen.
Sybil Shaw also had a lot of input into the training.
My biggest problem when I'm out in the field is how do I communicate what we heard this morning to our language helpers?
For the duration of the training, our technical team was working away in the back room, repairing equipment that the recordists had brought with them. The training and the work in West Africa are vital because of the number of languages, the illiteracy, and because of the pressure from Islam and traditional religions. Before we leave Ghana, let's just take in a few more of the sights. We visited a market where there were lots of grains, salt, dried fish, spices and everything else you can imagine. Care for some fresh snails? There were also night markets near where we lived and worked. This is some of the team walking to church one morning. We really enjoyed the welcome and the fellowship in the churches we visited. It's time for some of us to pack up and move on. We took a 2-hour flight to Sierra Leone, arriving at Freetown Airport. It's called Freetown because it was established in the late 1700s as a haven for ex-slaves from England. These are a few scenes around where we stayed in the suburb of Brookfields. And some of the city area. Before we could continue the training in Sierra Leone, we had to do some work on the studio. It required some soundproofing and some other acoustic treatment. Then we could unpack and set up the computers. But we had also discovered that electricity is a very rare commodity in Sierra Leone. So we purchased and set up a generator to run the office and the studio equipment. As part of the training, each of the 5 recordists had to complete a real recording. So we travelled by boat across a bay to the village of Shengi to do this work. On the way we called it Plantain Island, which had been a holding point for slaves during the slave trading days. After arriving at Shengi with all our equipment, the first formality was to go and meet the paramount chief. He is a Christian and he gave us his support for our recording program. Shengi is a pleasant little community in a very nice setting by the ocean. But, like many other places, it has its mosque and its percentage of Muslims. There are also ancestor worshippers there who live in fear of their spirits. We met some of the local kids who seemed to enjoy our company. We also made some other friends. These were a couple of pets who really were very entertaining. We were given the use of 2 mud brick buildings with thatched roofs to do our recording in.
Jesus kagba kiawe le ye chanto gbumni sana kayawe biholong chongba.
Now, back in Freetown, and this is the road to the office. The office and the studio are in the bottom floor of this great commission building. The recordists now enthusiastically began processing their new recordings, and it was really heartening to see them doing it so capably. We visited churches with the different Sierra Leone staff and very much enjoyed the fellowship and the welcomes that we received there. We also had time to do some sightseeing at a couple of the local beaches. We were all very thankful for the support we had from praying friends, and it was great to have email communication facilities. I was privileged to have Surendra with me in Sierra Leone. He was a great encouragement and help to me. Please keep praying for our work in West Africa. There are many needs, but God is working in wonderful ways. We want to see many more come out of the darkness and into the light of the gospel.